Hello, friends. Welcome to another edition of the Lovecast. You are listening to episode 159. That's right, episode 159. We're going to call this one Integrity. Again, you're listening to episode 159. This one is going to be entitled Integrity. Guys, how are you? Welcome back to another edition of the Lovecast. I'm excited to just share a few things with you about integrity today that I think are really vital for our journey that we're on together. And if you're going to live a life that is going to be in alignment with your core essence, who you are, if you're actually going to live into your power and your potential, it's super important that you understand what integrity is and also what it's not. But if we can understand what integrity is, then we can actually move into living into integrity in a much more authentic and powerful way. Okay, so before I get into that though, got some exciting news for you guys. Well, first of all, on last episode, if you guys have not listened to it, it was an interview I did with my wife, Taylor, Tori Carpenter, and also Scott Goldman. And we talked about sustainable alignment. They had just come through the sustainable alignment workshop, which was they did the beta phase of that. Because as you know, we are launching a brand new workshop. It's like a 6-week workshop we keep it very small and intimate so that we can take a group of people and really give them an experience of the starting process of moving into alignment. And so what we do is we talk about, it's actually a 6-week workshop, and we talk about all that it means, and not only talk about, but experience as well through a group dynamic and through some live Zoom calls, and then obviously some pre-produced weekly videos. But these 3 components make up this workshop, and this workshop is designed to give a small group of people experience of what it actually starts to mean to live into alignment with our truest and highest self. So that is the Sustainable Alignment Workshop. We start this coming Sunday as of this recording. We start Sunday, April 10th. So I'm super excited. We did fill up pretty quickly. So the registration for this go around of the Sustainable Alignment Workshop is filled. But don't worry if you are interested in being a part of the Sustainable Alignment Workshop. We're going to do this again in the near future, and I'm hoping in the next couple of months to do another round of the workshop. So if you're interested, go to my website, jamaljavanji.com. You'll be able to see right there on the top of the page some information about the Sustainable Alignment Workshop. You just click the little button that says find out more or more information. Click that, and then you'll see a little video, another button. Click that button, fill out the form. And that's important that you do that. You fill out the form through our website, and that lets us know that you're interested, and it will get you on a list. Because the next time we open up registration for the workshop, you'll be considered first. The reason this is important is because we do not this isn't about getting a whole bunch of people to take it, but it's about getting what I consider the right people in the workshop. And the right people are people who are interested, people who have high integrity, which I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes, but also people that really feel like this is something they could benefit from. So by filling out the form, you get on a wait list. We also keep it very limited because we want it to be an experience that's very intimate, not uncomfortable, but when I say intimate, I mean there's something really powerful about being a part of a small group of people and going through a project together, and we want to keep that culture. We want to really protect that. So the bigger something gets, the more you kind of get lost in the energy gets diluted, you get lost in the cracks, so to speak. And we really don't want that to happen with this workshop. So that's why we keep it on purpose, we keep it very tight and small. So that way we're going to do multiple workshops throughout the year, and I hope to see you on the next one if you're interested in this. Okay. Now, with that said, let me move on to something else that I'm excited about in regards to this podcast. We're going to be moving into a new season with this podcast. I have some pretty stellar interviews that are lined up for the next several weeks in the future. And so the part of this podcast is that, that this isn't just something that would entertain you, but really, really obviously feel that this podcast can be a tool that serves you and really helps you on your journey. So I've scheduled some pretty amazing interviews with people doing some important work in the world, and I'm excited about bringing their message to us through the medium of this podcast. So going to be talking, little teasers here. I'll tell you, going to be talking with a New York Times best-selling author and also an actress who's currently an actress in Hollywood, who's been on some shows, who's currently in some hit TV series, Manifest, Blue Bloods, different TV shows that have been on and that are still currently airing. And she plays a pretty amazing role. She's a great actress, but more importantly, she has also decided to move into her calling as a healer, somebody who really wants to empower people and heal people. And she's been doing that work as well. And I'm excited to bring her on the podcast to get, just to get her story out there. And I think her story is pretty compelling and amazing, especially being that she's a New York Times best-selling author. She was also a very, very prominent attorney, is still currently a prominent actress in Hollywood, and yet she is choosing to go deeper. And that is I'm always compelled by that. And so I'm excited to bring her story to you on the podcast. And then a few weeks moving ahead, also have some podcast interviews lined up with doctors, physicians who saw through the curtain, so to speak, and realized what health was and what it wasn't. And I am always fascinated when I talk to physicians in the medical world who realize that the system is not geared for healing, and yet they are. So she actually transitioned away from traditional healthcare and medicine and has moved into deeper work to really bring healing to people. And I can't wait for you to hear her story. So those are just a couple of teasers of some interviews coming up on the podcast. So if you have not yet subscribed to the Lovecast, let me encourage you to do that. However you listen to this podcast, you can subscribe, be it iTunes or Podbean or whatever, Spotify, or however you are listening to this podcast. Please subscribe. And if you would leave an iTunes review, rate it and review this podcast on iTunes, it really helps the podcast. So a few of you have already done that. We only get a small percentage of people who listen to this podcast actually rate it and review it. If we could get the majority of people who listen to this to rate and review the podcast, it would get a lot more visibility. And so let me ask you to do that. You can do that on iTunes. It just takes a few minutes, but it really is a huge help to the podcast. So go to iTunes, rate and review this podcast, The Lovecast with Jamal, and I would greatly appreciate that. Okay, so without further ado, I want to talk for just the next few minutes about integrity, because it's super important, and it's something I've been thinking a lot about, and it's something that affects all of us on this journey in the inner work. So what do I mean by integrity? What is it? What is integrity currently, or how is it currently defined? Right? Well, if you're like me, you've probably, when you hear the word integrity, you've probably heard it used as if it means it's a word that is synonymous with honesty or with, a sense of morality, right? Morality, honesty, just integrity, being a person of your word. Typically that's when people say, I'm a person of integrity, that means that they're somebody of their word. Well, it's very surface level understanding of integrity. And what I'd like to do is go a little bit deeper with the word and really get to the core or the essence of what it means. What does the word integrity mean? And then I want to talk about it, how it manifests in our life. Okay. So the word integrity comes from the word integral. Okay. Integral. What does integral mean? Well, the simplest definition of integral just means wholeness. Isn't it interesting? Think about that for a moment. It's very rarely used in that way, but that is what it means. That's what the word means. The core of the word Integrity comes from integral, which means to be whole, to be unified. Integral. Just think about that for a minute. To be integral means to be whole. Now, an example of this at a very material level is, think about a ship that is out in the ocean, right? I think let's say it's a military ship. It's like a Navy vessel, and it's out on the ocean. Now, what is it doing, right? Well, it's obviously moving through the water, and let's say it gets attacked, right? Let's say it's attacked by a torpedo or something. Well, if there's a breach, if something punctures or breaches the hull of the ship, another way they would say that is that the integrity of the ship has been compromised, meaning it's no longer whole. It's been fractured, right? So there's partition. So literally what will happen on a ship that gets punctured is that there's these defense mechanisms built into like military ships or ships on the water, so that if the water starts taking on, or if the ship starts taking on water in a certain department of the ship or compartment of the ship, that there are these walls that will come down to block off that compartment from the other compartments, right? So it actually will separate those compartments off from each other so that the water doesn't spread from the damaged compartment to the other compartments, because if the water spreads, it'll eventually spread throughout the whole ship and take the whole ship down. The whole ship will sink. But that way, it can localize the flooding to a certain department or compartment of the ship, if that makes sense. So when the integrity is breached, it means it's no longer whole, right? It's no longer whole. Well, most of us, people who are human beings that are living on this planet, because of the nature of our families, the nature of where, how we've been programmed, what we've experienced throughout our life, we too, as people, are not people of integrity. Now, I don't mean that as an insult. I just mean it as most people are not integral, meaning they've had trauma, because that's what trauma does. When there's trauma, there's a breach in our wholeness. Because we too, as human beings, have these defense mechanisms at the level of our psyche. It's very complex. But at the level of our psyche, what happens is that when there's trauma in a certain area of our life, these walls will kind of go up, and they exist just kind of like on a Navy ship. They exist to block the traumatized compartment of our life from spilling over into the other compartments of our life. So, when we experience trauma, let's say you experience some trauma at 10 years old. Well, at that point in your life, that trauma, there's disturbed energy that's there, then these walls go up to keep the disturbed, especially if it's something we are not able to process at the time, right? So if you're going through something in your life and you're not able to process whatever that is, or you're not able to move that disturbed energy out, because most of us, when we go through life, we're not equipped to deal with things. We just are kind of reacting to what's happening to us. And if it's too much for us, our self-defense mechanisms kick in, and these walls are created. It's not conscious, but unconsciously, these walls are created to compartmentalize that part of our life, or that compartment of our life that has that damaged energy or traumatized energy. And that is to keep it at bay so that it doesn't spread and destabilize our entire life. Okay. So that's happening. So whenever that happens, even though it's a self-defense mechanism meant to protect us temporarily, it is only temporary because it causes a breach in our integrity. It means we're no longer whole. So life is all about, and this is the thing that's super important for us to understand. Life itself is all about the unitive state, right? A lack of integrity is not a sustainable way to live. If you live in an unintegral state, what's going to happen is that life is going to become so challenging for you that it's going to keep, in the form of triggers that happen in our daily life, things will keep coming up, triggering old or past traumatized energy, because that energy that's behind that compartment that was locked away years ago needs to come back to the surface so it can be integrated, so that we can become whole people again. Because the unitive state, integrity, so when I say unitive state, I just mean whole. another way to say it is the state of integrity. The whole state is literally where life flourishes. And until we are operating on that level, there's a drive for integrity. And that's why things keep happening, so we can actually deal with it. So I have a saying in coaching when I work with my coaching clients. People will hear me say this a lot. I say it often. With what you feel, you heal. What you don't feel, you don't heal, right? Because part of moving into integrity is to get very, very present with what we're feeling, right? That's how we move into the integral state. Okay. Now, this is not something we are taught to do. This is not something we would instinctively do, because the last thing we want to do is feel and get very present with things that are uncomfortable for us. None of us want to do that because we're afraid. Because our self-defense mechanisms are designed to keep us from facing these events. Now, that might have kept us alive and maybe sustained us while we were in the survival state, but we're no longer in that state. When you move into your essence, when you move into the states of healing, we have to go beyond just simply surviving. And that's why understanding integrity and moving into the integral state is so important. So let's get into integrity a little bit. Okay, now that you know what it is, right? Integrity simply means wholeness, right? No partitions. So there are some symptoms that I want to highlight in our conversation today that I think are really, really important, okay? And these symptoms are the symptoms of integrity, because, again, a lot of times when we hear the word symptom, we tend to think of problem. But, disease isn't the only thing that has symptoms. Health has symptoms, right? Integrity has symptoms. So what are the symptoms of integrity, right? Well, one symptom is that we begin to blossom instead of perform. Yeah, when you move into the integral state, when you move into a state of integrity, we begin to blossom as people as opposed to perform. Now, what do I mean by that? Why am I using these two terms to contrast each other? It's a good question, right? So it's very simple, but think about a flower, right? Think about a flower. What does it do? Right? It grows, right? If a flower's planted, and as it's planted in soil. The soil gets nutrients. Soil has nutrients if it's in good soil, and there's moisture that comes, there's sunlight. What does the flower do? Yeah, it blossoms. It begins to, if it's a rose, it opens, it blossoms, and it's on full display. It's beautiful. It's amazing, right? That's life naturally blossoms. If you're a fruit tree, right? A fruit tree, what does it do? It blossoms. And how does it blossom? When it blossoms, those blossoms turn into fruit, whatever the fruit may be. It's really an incredible thing. I love springtime because during the spring, everything's blossoming, right? All the new life is coming back, and fruit trees and their blossoms are appearing, but then eventually those will become fruit if it's a fruit tree. But everything's blossoming, flowers and leaves and just so many different things are blossoming. You know what's amazing? I live in my wife and I, we're privileged to live in the mountains in Southern California, and we live in a national forest area. So in this area, we're surrounded by trees, and it's such a gift to be here. But one of the things I regularly see and notice is that how life naturally blossoms no matter what's happening. It's like, I say that to say life isn't performing. Like, you won't see a flower performing. Because what is a performance? Think about it. A performance is something that's done for other people, right? And what do I mean? I mean, it's done for the applause of other people or the notification of other people, right? So, like, if you are an actor or an actress and you are on a stage, right, you're hoping people will come watch the play. If you're on a stage in that sense, in a performance like on Broadway, or let's say you're making movies, the whole goal is that people would come and watch the movies. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. But that is performance at the core. That's what a performance is. But life will also perform an activity, right? Like a tree or a flower or whatever. It's going to perform. It's going to do what it does. But it does what it does not because of whether somebody else sees it or appreciates it or applauds it. No, life does what it does because that's what life does. Whether you appreciate a flower, it's still going to bloom, right? You can walk by and appreciate it, smell it, take it in, or you may just walk by it, not even notice it. Doesn't matter to the flower. The flower is going to do what the flower does. It's going to blossom. And when you move into a state of integrity in your own life, what you end up doing, even though, again, and I'll just speak for myself, for example. I mean, who I am is who I am, right? I'm passionate about the integral state, helping people move into states of wholeness within themselves. I am passionate about helping people heal. But at the end of the day, that's the reason I do that is because that's really just who I am. Because there are seasons where there's more people who appreciate that, and there are seasons where there's less people that appreciate that. It doesn't really change who I am or what I do. I may tweak some things here and there, but ultimately, even creating this podcast, why do I create this podcast? Yes, it is a service to you and to people who listen to it, but ultimately, it's because it's who I am, right? Whether one person listens to this or 1,000 people listen to this or 100,000 or 1,000,000 people listen to this, I do what I do because it's who I am. And who I am is what is needed in this world. So I, as a life, am blossoming because it's just who I am. It's not a performance. So therefore, what I do isn't dependent upon who notices or doesn't notice, who likes or who doesn't like, because a flower doesn't blossom because of what other people think of it. A flower blossoms because that's what the flower does. It is true to its own nature. Does this make sense? This is a really key point here because it is a key symptom. When you, and again, the more we move into states of integrity or wholeness, the more you will end up doing your life's work. And I, again, wrote a book called Living for a Living, which is all about moving into your true life work that goes way beyond just paying the bills and survival. The more you move into states of integrity internally, the more you will blossom as opposed to perform. Does that make sense? Because if you perform, well, you are at the mercy of the audience that you're performing for. Now, most people wouldn't consciously set out to be at the mercy of an audience, but folks who are in performance, they need the audience. And what they end up doing or not doing is often dictated by the appetites of an audience. And if you've dealt with people for any length of time, you know the audiences are really fickle, right? I love other people and I love the audience, but who I am is who I am independent of an audience. It's just who I am. So my encouragement to us is as we move into states of integrity, you will begin to just blossom in your own life, in your own being. 100% of the time, 10 out of 10 times, if you will blossom as a life, the audience will benefit from you. That's the paradox of all this. When you stop performing for an audience, that's when the audience gets the most out of who you are. It's amazing how this works. But the more integral we are as people, the more we will blossom versus perform. Okay? The second symptom of integrity, that was the first. The second symptom of integrity, the more we move into integrity, the more we will move into process versus react in panic. Okay, let me say that again. The second symptom of integrity, the more we move into integrity, the more we will settle into a process versus react in a panic. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, it's fairly simple and straightforward. But most people, the majority of people, and again, has been true of my life in the past, and this is also, a lot of the folks that I'm working with in coaching, we are attempting to move from a life of just pure reactions to external stimulus. So when you are not living or operating in personal integrity in yourself, in your own wholeness, your life is very reactive. What you do and don't do is very much dependent upon whatever's happening that given day. Yeah, and that doesn't mean that I'm against being in the flow, because I'm somebody who really values being in the flow of whatever's happening and not resisting what's happening, but being in the flow of that, because we can respond better when we're in the flow of whatever's occurring. So again, the more resistive to life we are, the less life works well. So I'm all in favor of, I think the best way to live, obviously, is to live in flow and in harmony with what's happening. But what I'm saying here is a little bit different, in that people who are not living in integrity with themselves, they are not in control of what it is that they're doing in life. They are not in control of themselves. They are very much reactive. However, whatever event is occurring that day, they will abandon themselves primarily to react to whatever pressing stimulus is happening in their life. Everything feels like a panic. Everything feels like an emergency, right? Typically, the feeling that when you are not in integrity with yourself, there's a feeling of there's not enough time or resources to do what I need to do. So we become very manic or panic driven, or our energy is playing catch up. That's the sense that people have when they're not living in integrity to their truest and highest essence. They're in a panic mode, trying to just accomplish or trying to react to all the stimulus that's happening outside of them. But when you're in integrity, when you're operating in personal integrity, you are more concerned with the process of what you're doing. You're involved in the day in and day out process of the work that you're choosing to be invested in. You're not reacting to some pressing emergency that feels like an emergency, but you're moving into the process of your life. So, or whatever your work is, it's a process. Again, the process you can only really move into that process when you're not in panic mode, right? Because when you're in panic mode, you process is the last thing you want to dial into, because that feels like it's keeping you, right, from what you're supposed to be doing, what you need to be doing to, put out whatever emergency is happening in the current moment. But when you're operating in personal integrity with yourself, there is a real deep sense of commitment to a process, right? And this leads me to my third point here, the third symptom here, right? What is the third symptom of being in integrity with yourself? Well, the third symptom is I kind of titled it this way: being somewhere versus getting somewhere, right? And this is another way to say process versus panic. Okay. So the third symptom of being in integrity with yourself is literally being where you are, being somewhere, versus trying to get somewhere. Right? Do you see the difference there? There's a huge difference between being somewhere and trying to get somewhere. It's the same difference as being in process versus being in panic, right? All of us have probably done a road trip, right? Have you ever felt impatient being on a road trip? Are we there yet? Trying to get somewhere, right? This is when you're not living in integrity with your core essence, you're trying to get somewhere. But when you're integrity, energetic, when I say integrity, energetic integrity, this isn't conscious. It's more than just an intellectual set of choices. This is energetic integrity internally. When you're living in energetic integrity, you are being where you are. You may be on a road trip, but you are very present with where you are on the journey. Obviously, you're headed somewhere, but you can only get somewhere by being somewhere. Does that make sense? It's a super important point here that I want to make, okay? So being somewhere versus getting somewhere. Huge difference. When you're in integrity with yourself, you can be where you are. And the best way to get anywhere is to be where you are, to be settled in, dialed into the process, right? Not to be in panic trying to get somewhere you're not, but to be where you are. That's the quickest. It's always, and this is what's so counterproductive. The people I work with, the number one hindrance to so many people in the coaching world, and this is something I have to address with lots of people regularly, is this is not a race. The feeling you have of wanting to get somewhere, to get to a better place, or, like, it's totally understandable, but that is actually part of the problem. The more you try to get somewhere, the slower you get there. Does that make sense? If you don't have integrity internally, you will be in a rush to get somewhere. So how do you just settle into the process? Well, that's a lot of the work we do in coaching, but I really stress there is no substitute. There is zero substitute for settling into the mundane process of daily life. I know that that's not popular. I know there's a lot of people out there today just kind of selling things about get there quick and change your life in a second. Do I believe life can change in a second? 100%. Absolutely. It can change in this moment. But the process of moving into internal integrity, there's no shortcuts to that. It is a process. And the people who try to shortcut or that to get somewhere quicker, to learn a new technique or to do this new thing so they can get there quicker, that does not work. And I see it. It's great for, jump starting your car. If you have a dead battery, it's a good example of this. If you have a dead battery and your car won't start, you could jump start your car. Yeah, that'll work. But if you don't drive the car, because when you drive a car, because of alternating current, right? The way the motor's designed is the more you drive it, the more it charges the battery. Well, you can jump start the car, but if you don't get into the process of driving, and if that process isn't working correctly, where your battery is being recharged through alternating current through driving, you're going to have to jump start the car again and again and again, because you're going to have a dead battery over and over and over. So there's just no way to move into integrity internally unless we are willing and able and committed to settling into a daily process. The reason, and if you've done coaching work with me, you know that that's one of the things that we emphasize is daily, simple, not complex, simple daily processes, because what they do is they move you into a state internally of integrity, right? So a good example of this is, and to use a movie analogy, you might have seen Karate Kid, okay? It's a classic. It came out in the 80s. I'm not talking about the newer one. My era of Karate Kid came out in the 80s with Ralph Macchio, right? And Pat Morita, I think is his name. But the original classic Karate Kid. If you've seen the movie, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But the Karate Kid, Ralph Macchio's character, he wanted to learn karate. He kept getting beat up, and he was basically suffering in life, and life wasn't going well for him. So he realized that Mr. Miyagi was a karate expert and was somebody that could teach him karate. So he approached him. They made an agreement. And basically in this agreement, Mr. Miyagi would give Daniel, that was the Ralph Macchio's character in the movie, Daniel a set of tasks to train. and he couldn't question it. And if you remember, what did he have him doing? Initially, he had him waxing cars, right? And he taught him how to wax cars with his right hand, and with his left hand, there was a certain movement. Wax on with one hand, wax off with the other hand. It had to be in certain circular motions. He had to breathe, do a breathing technique as he was waxing the cars, washing and waxing the cars. And then he had him painting a fence, right? Then he had him sanding the floor. And of course, Ralph Macchio's character, the Karate Kid's character, was getting really upset because there was no explanation given. It was just do these repetitive, menial tasks every day. And every day that's going by, he's supposed to be learning karate and he's not learning it. And he's got to compete in a karate tournament. So he's getting really worried. He's like feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm in a hurry. I got to hurry up and learn karate. We're wasting all this time. I'm just waxing his cars, painting his fences. And it's a classic. It's a classic movie. Then eventually there was a break and he was going to quit. And Mr. Miyagi's character kind of called him back to attention and then showed him, he kind of put it all together for him, what he was doing was actually, he was training, he was learning a process of learning karate. But it was a process. It was tedious, daily, seemingly menial tasks, but all of it was teaching him something really important. What he was doing, what Mr. Miyagi was doing for the Karate Kid, is he was helping establish internal integrity, a sense of consistency and rhythm daily, internally, to bring about the desired energetic state of mastering this martial art, right, of karate. Because the martial arts, as you know, if you know anything about them, they are rooted in internal focus and energy. Internal, not external. Internal focus and energy. So you have to have a process of moving into internal integrity to be able to master that. Well, that's not just true of martial arts. It's true of life. The people who are not in control of life are the people who have not learned how to move into a state of internal integrity. How do you learn internal integrity? Through commitment to a process. It's not sexy. But it is absolutely empowering and liberating over time. Okay? And there's no shortcuts to it. Integrity is essential. If you want to master your life and to begin to create the life that you want, then you are going to need to become a person of integrity internally. And that is a process. Obviously, that's what I do in my coaching work, and that's why I'm so excited about it and passionate about it, because it is literally the only way a person can move into a life of sustainable alignment and a sustainable mastery over the process of living and creating the life that you want. So there's no way around it apart from establishing an internal integrity. Most people lack this internal integrity, to be completely honest. Most people are lacking that ability to do that. So now what I'm saying, I'm not knocking, this is not a knock on us for not being internally integral. It's just a product of life. We're not taught, unfortunately, in the West and modern times, we're just not taught how to take mastery over our internal state of being. So that's why the work is needed now. And until we do that work, there's no way to learn this informationally. This is about energy. This is literally about moving beyond the body and the mind. So the body and the mind, there are certain tendencies that are pre-programmed there at the body-mind level. So the key for us is moving beyond the body or the mind, those tendencies. Okay, so there's a little test. And again, that's part of this is the work. Again, it's a process of moving beyond the body and the mind. And when we get beyond the body and the mind, we move into this place of deep power, rest. It is the integral place. It is the place where integrity can be restored to the system, to the body and the mind. But it comes from this internal place, this being aligned with this core essence of your being. Okay, so here's a little test you can do to determine just how out of alignment with your integral state you are. Okay. So, if you are lacking in internal integrity, this test can just show you where the resistance is. Okay. Because being out of integrity means there's a resistance. That's really what that's a major overall symptom of not being in integrity, is that you have resistance, right? It comes out first, as performance. It may come out as panic, as we talked about. It may come out as trying to get somewhere. So here's the test that will help you determine where the resistance is. Okay. So there's two groups of people that I'm talking to right now. Okay. So one group, if you'll just notice or observe your tendencies, right? If you have a tendency to kind of veg, for lack of better words, that if you feel overwhelmed a lot by life and you just have a draw, you just kind of naturally notice a tend to veg, like to just zone out, or if you have no problem kind of just quote unquote relaxing. Again, relaxing is a great thing, but if that's a tendency for you, just to kind of veg, lay in bed, relax, watch some movies, whatever, that's a natural tendency for you. So what I would like you to do, if that's you, is I'd like you to take 1 hour out of your schedule. Okay. And I want you to focus on something very specific that you, choose to do, something you want to do. It's a task, it's a project, something that involves concentration, something that involves focus. I want you to choose to do something. Maybe it's writing, maybe it's sewing, maybe it's, who knows? Could be a lot of different things. But I want you to focus on doing an activity that requires focus and attention for 1 hour. If your tendency is to be kind of just relax, like vegging out, if that's your natural tendency, is to just relax, veg out, I want you to focus for 1 hour on without taking breaks. Again, here's the key: no breaks. Don't take any breaks. Don't get up to stretch your legs. Don't take a walk. I want you to be focused on something for 1 hour, an activity, a project, something, and see how that feels. Okay. This is a test. If that's challenging for you, if you feel like you just need to take a break, if you feel like you're getting overwhelmed, if you feel, antsy, jittery, just sitting, doing something that requires focus, internal focus, that's because there's a lack of energetic integrity internally within you. There's some disturbance there. Okay. That's all that's showing you. Okay. But just be aware of that. That's a test you can take that shows you a lack of internal integrity. Okay. Now, if you're somebody that has a hard time slowing down, if you're somebody that has a tendency of always wanting to be doing something, moving, creating, doing something, working out, running, something that you need to be doing with your physical body, something that if that's your tendency, if your tendency is when you're not, it's effortless for you to get really busy and distracted, doing, physical activities or something that involves a lot of movement. If that's you, if that's who you are, here's the test for you. What I'd like you to do for this test is I would like you to take 30 minutes, and I want you to turn your phone off or put your phone away. Turn your computer, no computers or technology or TVs or phones anywhere around. I want you to sit in a room by yourself with no other human presence around. So make sure you're completely by yourself. Be in a room, no windows, just as plain as you can be, as plain as you can get, a room with just, typically, if you can get just white walls, that's even better. But if you can't, just make sure it's a secluded room where you are just with yourself, no technology, no other noises, no other TV shows or voices playing, just you and some walls. And I want you to sit on the floor, cross-legged, and fixate on a point in the wall. Okay. And I want you to sit there for 30 minutes. You're going to take 30 minutes just to sit and look at one place, one spot in the wall. See how that feels. How difficult is that for you? Is it easy for you to do? Is it challenging for you to do? Do you feel like you're not able to just sit and look at that one spot on the wall? Just fixate, find an anchor point on the wall and just look at it for 30 minutes. If you are out of integrity and energetic, if your disposition is to be very busy a lot, if you cannot sit down for 30 minutes and just look at a point on the wall, it's because you're out of energetic integrity with yourself. You lack the integrity to do that activity or to do it without resistance. That just shows you where there's resistance. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? Because when you are in integrity, internally, energetically, you're able to focus on a specific activity that requires concentration, or you are also able to just sit and be very focused without actually doing anything, just at complete rest. This is what being in energetic integrity can look like. And you can not only do this for 30 minutes or an hour at a time, you can live this way when you are in an energetic and integrity, when you are operating in energetic integrity. And the more energetic integrity you operate in, the more you can create a life that actually works for you. You become the master and creator of your life versus the reactor, a victim of life. Does that make sense? So I just wanted to share that with you today. This really the need to be a person, people of integrity, energetically, internally, where we are literally operating from a place of wholeness so that we can create life on our terms and avoid the cyclical patterns of suffering that typically we're operating in. Most people are operating in cycles. It's almost predictable, clockwork, cycles of struggle and peace, and then more struggle and then peace. When you begin to move into integrity, you begin to move beyond the life cycles of struggle and suffering. Okay, we'll leave it there for today. And I'm excited about the future interviews that are coming up in just a few weeks on the podcast. So stay tuned for those. Hope this conversation has been helpful. I would love to hear from you. Feel free to leave a message on our hotline, which is 909-747-9648. Again, 909-747-9648. Would love to hear from you. Tell me how this episode or conversation has spoken to you. What are some questions, comments, concerns you may have? Love to hear from you. Okay, and please don't forget to leave a review, rate and review this podcast on iTunes. It's a great help to the podcast. Okay. The more that we operate as people of energetic integrity, the more that we can blossom. And when we blossom, just like a plant, just like life blossoms, the more we blossom in this world, the more we will end up doing exactly what is needed. Okay. This is a time more than ever before. We need each one of us to step up to the plate and blossom in life. Okay? Until next time, take care, guys. Bye-bye.